This presentation is on the top 5 lessons from On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. This book outlines 20 lessons to try and inform people and protect them from the threat of tyranny in today's world by using impactful moments in history from the 20th century. I chose the 5 lessons I thought were the most valuable and important. The first lesson I chose was Lesson 1, Do Not Obey in Advance. This lesson focuses on the importance to not blindly follow orders, to think about your actions and the consequences that they have. If you have anticipatory obedience, it limits creativity and prevents forming better ideas. Without questioning things, you can't learn. An important example of this was with Nazi soldiers in World War II. Many of them used what is now regarded as the Nuremberg defense, in using the phrase Befehl ist Befehl, and this German phrase translates to orders are orders. And by thinking this way, it allowed them to not have to think about the moral reasoning behind the orders that they had, and was their defense for the horrible actions that they committed during the war. A less severe example can be seen in everyday lives, and this is with many entry-level minimum wage jobs. Managers give instructions to employees and expect them to follow tasks without question. However, this limits growth, as the employee may have an idea of a more efficient way to do the task. Regardless, many employees are unwilling to listen, and this mindset doesn't allow employees to develop ideas or grow. It creates mindless workers that aren't helping the company or society advance. The next lesson I chose was Lesson 3, Beware the One-Party State. This focuses on the importance to support multi-party countries and to defend democratic elections. Problems with one parties is that there is limited freedoms, such as when the German Nazi Party had total control of Germany during World War II. In China, the Communist Party of China has been the only party for 70 years now, and in North Korea, the Workers' Party of Korea has been the only party for 74 years. Out of all the ranked one-party states on the 2020 Index of Economic Freedom, all are ranked as repressed or mostly unfree. This means that there is less than 60% of economic freedom in rule of law, government size, regulatory efficiency, and open markets. This is a clear indicator that if we want to keep our freedom, focusing on not turning into a one-party state is very important. Many majority red or blue states think that their opinion isn't important. But if everyone has this mindset, then staying away from a future one-party state would be impossible. The next lesson that I decided to focus on was Lesson 4, to take responsibility for the face of the world. Symbols are very important, and they mean more than they can seem. Such in history, symbols of hate, such as swastikas and the yellow stars in Nazi Germany. These signs of hate were powerful because they divided people from each other and excluded others. When it became commonplace, and it made other people's actions or discrimination seem more culturally acceptable. Regardless of personal views, nearly everyone displayed swastikas during World War II in Nazi Germany to show support of the Nazi Party out of fear. They believed it was easier to not resist, and their loyalty wouldn't be questioned. But when everyone sees blatant signs of loyalty, it seems impossible to change or resist. A solution to this is peaceful protest. Don't be afraid to share your opinion and to spread your ideas. If you think something is unjust, speak out. Others may feel the same, but without voicing your thoughts, nothing can change. This photo is from the 2017 Women's March in Washington, D.C., where up to 5 million people participated to share their views in non-violent protests. The next lesson that I chose was Lesson 8. Following my conclusion of Lesson 4 on sharing your opinions, this lesson is also on the importance of individuality. If your reactions are always expected and not individual, you are easy to control. The book used Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Britain in 1940, as an example of how an unexpected reaction is important. When Hitler began bombing British cities, he expected Churchill to sign an armistice to step down. Churchill, however, resisted and fought back, forcing Hitler to fight the war at 2 fronts. This action took Hitler by surprise and led to the end of the war. This book also outlines Teresa Perokova's action during World War II as a prime example. Many people turned a blind eye to the disappearance of the Jewish people in their lives as Nazis took them away one by one. Teresa acted against the status quo and entered the Warsaw Ghetto a dozen times to bring food and supplies to Jews there. This act of empathy was immensely important to the Jews there and could have meant the difference between life and death. A current example is Mitu Khurana from the documentary It's a Girl, who spoke out against gendercide in India. She faced pressure by many around her to abort her children simply because they were girls. This act of speaking out was widely objected by family members in her society. She was even threatened by doctors to retract her reports. She became an activist against female feticide by spreading the information of immoral acts that are happening and will hopefully help ending the continuation of that in the future. The last lesson that I decided to focus on was lesson 11, don't rely on single sources of information. Propaganda can be very dangerous if its information is always taken as truth. An example is this Nazi propaganda poster from the Second World War. This translates to who is to blame for the war. Examining all sides of fact is necessary, because if someone were to take this poster as fact, then of course they would have aligned with the beliefs of the Nazis during this time. A simple example of this today is news channels produced by conservative or liberal parties. If all your opinions are developed from information from only one of these news sources, you won't be able to look at the broader picture and are only getting biased views. By investigating your facts, you'll be more informed and more capable of choosing the best decisions regarding an issue. This concludes the 5 lessons that I found most important from the book and the information that I gathered from them.